Hello everyone, welcome to Mastermind. In this video, let us discuss about era of militant nationalism. So as you all know, this is the important portion for modern Indian history. Modern Indian history, and especially if you're looking at KS examination, they are asking about Indian national movement itself. So they have specifically mentioned about Indian national movement in the syllabus itself. So when it comes to Indian national movement, so the time from literally 1905 till 1947 will be of utmost importance for us. So if you are looking at era of militant nationalism, it actually starts from 1905. There is a lot of background also for this, but we are discussing particularly from 1905 to 1947. Let us look at a few of background for this also. So in case of background, first one which you have to look at is the formation of Indian National Congress. We still have not gone to era of militant nationalism. I'll just write over here the era of militant nationalism is in between 1905 to 1909. 1909. So at this point of a time, we'll be discussing even more related to era of militant nationalism. Now, why is this timeline taken for era of militant nationalism? Because in 1905 there was partition of Bengal. This is the first thing, and then there was the Act of 1909. The Act of 1909. So that will form us the era of militant nationalism. But before we get into the era of militant nationalism, let us discuss a little basics to get into it, so that our modern Indian history is also covered properly. For that, the first thing which we have to discuss is the Indian National Congress, or the formation of Indian National Congress. So the establishment of this organization is important, because this is one of the first one which was formed as All India Organization. And this was given by whom? It was given by A.O. Hume. It was given by A.O. Hume itself. And then they had organized the first session of Indian National Congress. Where was the first session of Indian National Congress organized? It was organized in Bombay. It was organized in Bombay in December 1885. 1885. So see, the article I have mentioned in detail about what is the era of militant nationalism, but here we are actually making the notes. So if you are also wanting to make the notes like this, then you just grab pen and paper, and then as I am making the notes, even you start making the notes as well. Or else after this you can take the screenshot and you can keep it for yourself as well. So this was found by A.O. Hume, and the first session was in Bombay in December 1885. Then later on there were two sessions of Indian National this thing conference which was held in 1883 and 1885. And Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose, they were the main architects for this. But the first session of Indian National Congress, was attended by how many people? It was attended by 72 delegates. It was attended by 72 delegates, and it was presided by, who was the president of the first session of Indian National Congress? It was W.C. Banerjee. It was W.C. Banerjee. Now what it is? Vomesh Chandra Banerjee. Okay, and who addressed the first session of Indian National Congress? It was addressed by Kadambini Ganguly. Kadambini Ganguly. So we are writing all these points because these are the points which they are asking in multiple choice questions. So we'll be mentioning only about the points which has the potential to be a multiple choice question. Okay, so it was addressed by Kadambini Ganguly, who was the first woman graduate of Calcutta University. See, even now we have not started with era of militant nationalism yet. We are discussing the background or the basis for the era of militant nationalism. So when Indian National Congress or INC was formed, which was formed in 1885, a lot of people said that it was a safety valve. That is, A.O. Hume, they had formed this Congress in order with an idea that it would prove to be a safety valve. That is, whatever were the discontent which was growing on with the Indians, this would help in releasing that. There were other Indians also. there were other Indians also that held that Indian National Congress was born out of conspiracy. For example, that was, you have to mention these names also. First one was Bipin Chandra. Bipin Chandra. They also said it is safety wall. Then you have R.P. Dutt. They also said that it is a safety wall. That is, they said that it was born out of conspiracy. In case of Bipin Chandra, they said that the early Congress leaders used Hume as a lightning conductor to bring together the nationalistic force, even if under the guise of safety wall. This was said by Bipin Chandra. So R.P. Dutt said that it was related to conspiracy. Bipin Chandra said that though it was a safety wall, it was used as a lightning conductor. And even the Marxist historian said that it was a conspiracy theory. But all those things are not important for us unless and until we are considering the prelims from the prelims perspective. So it was A.O. Hume in Bombay. It was held. It was held in December 1885, and 72 delegates attended this. W.C. Banerjee was presiding the first session, and then Kadambini Ganguly, they addressed the first session, and they were the first woman graduate of Calcutta University. Now, when this Indian National Congress is formed, there has to be some goals of this Indian National Congress, right? That is, there will be some objectives also of Indian National Congress, correct? Now, what were the aims or objectives of Indian National Congress? That is something which we have to understand. They said that they wanted to have a proper nationalist movement. They wanted to have a proper nationalist movement, and they wanted to promote relations among nationalist political workers. So we can say it as political workers unity. Political workers unity. That is, there are a lot of other organizations. See, this Indian National Congress, which was formed in 1885, this was not the only or the first organization which had formed. There were a lot of organizations which had formed even before Indian National Congress. But this was providing a platform on the national terms. So first one is it was formed in order to make it more democratic and nationalistic movement, and to bring together nationalist political workers. And then it was in order to educate the people in order to bring more awareness among the people, and it was in order to develop and propagate anti-colonial, or whatever was the anti-colonial ideology that they wanted to spread among Indians. They wanted to spread that anti-colonial ideology, and it was in order to promote and nurture Indian nationhood. So this was a political organization, or you can call it as a all India organization, which was Indian National Congress, with these objectives. And even before this 1905 to 1909, whatever is the term from the formation of Indian National Congress till 1905, that region you call it as era of moderates. It is era of moderates. See, this is the first part in which we are discussing era of militant nationalism, in which we are discussing about era of moderates again. So we started from 1885. Indian National Congress was formed, and we got to know what are the objectives of Indian National Congress, and then we are looking at era of moderates because they were the moderates. Now, who are the important leaders of this moderates? So it was W.C. Banerjee. So it was W.C. Banerjee, and then S.N. Banerjee. So it is W.C. Banerjee. Somewhere it is some places it is mentioned as W.C. Banerjee. Then next one is D.E. Vacha. Then you have Dadabhai Nauroji. Dadabhai Nauroji, W.C. Banerjee, and then there is P.N. Mehta. So these are moderates. These are some of the important moderates. Now, what was the intention of the moderates? So what was the working philosophy of the moderates? So they had two methods of working, very, very important for us. So they had two methods in order to do the working. Now what was the first method? In order to have a public opinion, in order to have a public opinion. Now what is that public opinion? That is, public should be aware about the consciousness, public should be educated about what the British is doing, public should unite together, and they also have to have proper political questions. So in order to spread awareness, you can say awareness. So when public is educated, they will also be aware, okay, and they will also be in line with whatever they are forming. Next, in order to bring reforms, in order to bring reforms on the line of nationalists. Now how would they bring reforms? They were persuading the British government itself, that they were telling that public opinion is this thing and you have to do something like this, and because we are also wanting the similar thing, you have to do same thing. So arise public opinion and then ask the British itself to bring reforms. Now it was not just in India that they were trying to bring reforms. It was not just in India. You have to also remember that they had also formed the British Committee of Indian National Congress. This British Committee of Indian National Congress, it was established in London. Very, very important. It was established in London in 1899. So Indian National Congress was formed in 1885, whereas British Committee of Indian National Congress was established in London in 1899. Now what was the aim of British Committee of Indian National Congress? Now whatever were the public opinion of awareness which had to be bring among Indians, that was being done by Indian National Congress here. But the British Committee of Indian National Congress was making the British Parliament in Britain more aware about whatever is the consequences which is going on in India. So they were making the British people also more aware about whatever is happening in India. So these were the two approaches which the moderates were following. Along with this, now we said that they wanted to bring public opinion, correct? Now how were they bringing public opinion? Public opinion, it had to be one second. Now how they had to bring public opinion? This by reaching out the public. How did they reach out the public? First one is by having a lot of books, by criticizing the British imperialism. For example, the political economy of British rule in India, and they introduced drain theory. Drain theory. So if they ask in examination, who introduced the drain theory? It was by moderates, which is Dadabhai Naoroji, R.C. Dutt, then Vacha and others. They analyzed the political economy of British India and they introduced drain theory. That this drain theory was explaining how British is exploiting India. Okay, how British is exploiting India. And they were bringing in case of reforms, okay, in case of reforms, they were fighting for the reforms with British only. They were fighting for the reforms with British. That is, they were demanding constitutional reforms. They were demanding constitutional reforms. Okay, so they were demanding constitutional reforms. Now, what exactly were these demands? First one was expansion of council. Expansion of council. Okay, so at this point of a time, after 1858, when Viceroy came into place as Governor General of India, Viceroy was there, and then there was Secretary of State for India. So Viceroy was also guided by Executive Council. So in that Executive Council, there were hardly any Indians. So the Congress, or Indian National Congress, or you can say it as era of moderates, the moderates were demanding that the number of people in this council had to be increased, and you have to have more Indians in the council. See, now they are not telling that the British has to go out of India. They are just telling that Viceroy is taking care of all the things, all the regulations, political in India, and the Viceroy is guided by the Executive Council. So this council has to be expanded, and then Indians have to be included in this council. And then they were asking for the reform of this council. They were asking for the reform of this council. That is, there has to be greater control which has to be given to Indians. That is, if you look at the Act of 1892, when all of these demands were growing, Act of 1892, they gave the Congress people a little more lenience. That is, they could ask questions, they could raise questions. Okay, they included in Indian in the council. So all these demands were going on. Okay, so expansion of the council and reform of the council. Now, what were the goals of this? So if they were not providing this, they also called for no taxation without a representation. Okay, no taxation without representation. That is, we are demanding for representation. Correct? In the council we are demanding for representation. Now if you are not fulfilling the demand, then we will not be paying taxes also. Okay, on this line there were a lot of campaigns which were done by moderates. For example, separation of judicial from executive functions. Then whatever were the bureaucracy, that they criticized that bureaucracy. They criticized their foreign policy. That is, they were fighting or they were attacking Afghanistan, and they were suppressing tribals and all, right? So those things were criticized by the moderates, and they called for the expenditure on the welfare or irrigation works, and then agricultural banks for cultivators, etc. So all of the demands were also being fulfilled by the British when the demands were raised by the moderates. So it was working. Okay, so this was the phase of moderates. Okay, Indian National Congress. Let's revise it once, and in the next part we'll discuss the part 2 of era of militant nationalism. In this we have just discussed the background. In this we have discussed the background for era of militant nationalism. Okay, so Indian National Congress was formed. A.O. Hume was there. 1885 first session, 72 delegates. W.C. Banerjee, Kadambini Ganguly addressed it. And then whatever were the objectives we saw, and era of moderates, what were the methods in which they were forming. British Committee of Indian National Congress in London 1899. Once again, in London 1899. Then the public opinion on drain theory and the reforms. They were demanding constitutional reforms, which was expansion of the council, reform of the council, etc. So I hope you have understood till here. In the next part, we'll discuss era of militant nationalism. See, the thing is, I'm taking more time and I'm explaining more, so that once you watch this video, it acts as a revision also for you, and you understand, because I'm repeating all the things again and again. So I'll see you soon in the next part. Thank you.